If I ever have another kid, I'm naming him Larry.
Thanks. I'm not taking back anything I said about you today, though. He still doesn't know, Jay.
Take me out on the water, way out in the woods, where the breathing is easy, the living is good. Out in the great outdoors.
Larry Smith Outdoors is brought to you by Warrior Boats, Vortex, Tub Hotels, Leroy's Meats, Bartline Barrels, Magic Products, Power Sports Company, Mike's Country Meats, Baronet Blinds, Drexel Building Supply, River's Edge Tree Stands, Eskimo and the MRD Group.
Out in the great outdoors.
Welcome back to this week's show. We are on the road and we're heading over to the Mississippi with our good friend Adam Christensen. But we've got some people that we're going to be fishing with that are absolutely, I'm going to say, they're catfish crazy. We've got Christine Lemke, and then we've got Adam's buddy Matt. And Matt is definitely lives to catch catfish, and especially flatheads. Flathead fishing is one of them kind of things where I look at it like muskie fishing. You don't keep a lot of them. We let most of them go. The only difference is I've never eaten a muskie, but I have eaten a few flatheads. And I'm going to tell you, they're absolutely horrible. So don't ever keep one and eat one. So we are definitely going to be there in about 15 minutes, and I'll introduce you to everybody. But I got a feeling it is going to be a very, very interesting night. So hang on to your hindies. Hey everybody, it's about 6:30. We're going out to catch some bait. We got an interesting group of people in the boat today. Very, very knowledgeable, except for Adam Christensen. He doesn't know absolutely jack crap about anything, but maybe how to, like, you know, sink an airboat.
If I ever have another kid, I'm naming him Larry.
Thanks. I'm not taking back anything I said about you today, though. Hey, right now we're just catching bait. I'm letting these three catch all the bluegills we've caught, building bait up for tonight. So doesn't take long. We're gonna do this for about 45 minutes. Things are going pretty good here. And then we're gonna set up and start fishing flatheads. She's getting there. Lots of bait. You never know. Gotta be prepared. You got another worm up there, Sweet Lips? Not you, man.
Sweet lips.
We got pretty much everything that you could imagine that we need, except for a dogfish and a bass. Yeah. Hey Matt, let's talk about catching bait. You know, there's a lot of different regulations on catching bait. You can't just go catch bluegills on another body of water and bring them in. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, whether it's location or species or quality of bait, they all matter. So whatever waters you're fishing, make sure you're aware of local regulations.
Right.
Different states, especially like we're here on the boundary waters next to Minnesota, Wisconsin. There's different regulations on either side.
Okay.
Different amounts of rods that can or may not.
Like in Minnesota, only one rod.
Well, boundary waters you can use two.
You can use two.
Right. Inland waters is one. However, there's been some legislation recently to change the regulations in some portions of those watersheds. However, here on Pool 8, Mississippi River, we can run 3 on the Wisconsin side. We can use any game fish that's part of your daily bag.
Okay.
However, obviously, we can essentially use the local baits here that the fish are used to consuming. Always very, you know, it's not only convenient, but highly effective.
You know, a flathead too, Matt, I think is probably one of the coolest looking fish too, because, you know, it's just amazing. Like, you catch a walleye, they're pretty much the same, but you catch a flathead and the color variation can be so different.
Right.
Any idea why that is?
Well, it could be the type of bottom that they're on, whether it's light sand or mud or other things. Also, there's individual variation within different flatheads. It could be related to temperature, genetics. There's a lot of different components, but they are highly variable in their color or pattern. Even some fish have different morphology. Males tend to have a broader head.
Okay.
They tend to be shorter, more robust, whereas females are more elongated, narrower head. So there is some different morphology between male and female as well. However, you know, Flatheads are the powerhouses pound per pound. I mean, just an exciting fight as they bulldog for the bottom, or when they smash your bait in the rod holder, you don't know if you're about to catch a 5-pounder or a 50-pounder.
That's the
true. Thrilling part about it.
Right, and I've had some big ones bite almost like a bluegill.
Sure.
It's real, and I've had
Sometimes
other
it'll
ones
be
just
light, yeah.
grab it and just obviously take off.
Sure, we've let certain fish run for 1 or 2 seconds. Other times in cooler water, we've let those fish take baits for up to even a minute.
Holy cats.
When you're barely hooking them. So
right.
As that metabolism drops, their feeding aggression drops as well. So you just have to understand the time of the year and the best presentation for that time of year. Obviously understanding pre-spawn, post-spawn, fall migration patterns, all those things are components of being a successful flathead fisherman. But even with that understanding, they're always a challenging species, and that's the fun.
You're hooking them through the back?
I try to go at an angle towards their head. And then you want to make sure that you don't have any scales on the barb. Otherwise you won't get a good hookup. And I want my bait to swim as naturally as possible with a giant hook in its back.
So what kind of hooks are you running?
This one has a 10-aught tail hook.
No, why not a circle hook?
I
What's your opinion on that? I'm sure there's a lot of different, everybody.
Too much resistance.
Too much resistance?
Not only that, but flat swim towards you on occasion.
Yep. So you're not using a circle hook either?
Yeah, he runs
Oh,
tails
God,
too.
no.
Oh my gosh.
Tails are really the standard for flathead.
They
Yeah.
are.
Circle hooks are more for blues and channels.
Okay, why?
Why? Because they're
Why?
they don't get put off by resistance.
Okay.
When flatheads feel the resistance, they'll drop a bait. This is why we often put our reels in free spool. Or we often run slip rigs, right? See how this slides?
Yep.
Slider or slip rig?
Yep.
That way the fish can run with the bait and there's no resistance. You're targeting a totally different creature.
Okay.
Even though they're both a catfish,
Yep.
their behaviors couldn't be any more different.
This is one of the most unique species of fish, and honestly, it's my favorite thing to fish for. Again, just because they're a beautiful fish, and they're just so, I don't know, the mysterious. To catch a fish that is 30 to 40 to 50 pounds, that's a massive fish. And it seems like for me, and I'm not, I shouldn't even be talking because between Christine and Matt, I know squat about flatheads. But to me, to get a fish that's in that 30-pound range back at home where I fish, it's got to be at least over 42 inches.
Here's the thing. A lot of times on social media and other platforms, you hear this whole old wives' tale of a pound per inch.
Yes.
And that's just ridiculous. It makes zero sense biologically. Because of the variance of these fish, it's exponential. So every inch you go up, that weight variance increases. The Kansas world record, that's a 61-inch fish weighing 123 pounds and had a 16-pound fish in its belly.
A 16-pound fish in his
That's
belly?
right.
A buffalo,
Yeah, it was a buffalo.
Holy man.
Buffalo sucker, right?
Yeah.
So that's a significant portion of that fish's weight. Now let's look at the commercial record. 1982, Arkansas snagline, 139 pounds, 69 inches long. Woo. That's the largest flathead ever known.
That is crazy. Any idea how old a flathead like that would be?
Well, in Arkansas, you're probably talking maybe a 20, 25-year-old fish.
Okay. So not super old, but they get to grow year-round.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they just have a much greater window of feeding opportunities.
Right, because of the warmer water.
That's right. So many flathead fishermen, I don't have a scale, I don't have a measuring tape, or I have some old rusty thing that's 20 years old, and they just don't have the ability to ascertain the weight, let alone safely weigh the fish. If you look here, this is my cradle. This is a 50-inch cradle. This is how you safely weigh a flathead. So you can support that
like
fish.
a muskie cradle.
That's right.
Yep.
It's the same thing. And
Yep.
you hang these fish by their jaw, that can damage the fish. It's so important as a flathead fisherman to be careful because you can, injure that animal and potentially kill it. It might swim away, but
And you might think it's okay.
It's gonna
Right.
die.
Right.
Or you've corrupted its ability to feed properly because you've injured it with trying to hold it or weigh it by its jaw from a very narrow point with a hook or something like that. So
It's kind of like holding a muskie vertical. That's
Right.
It's the worst thing you can do to that
That's
fish.
right.
So Matt, what kind of cradle is that? I've never seen
this
that
is
one
a
before.
bottom dweller's kind of tournament style cradle. It's got handles, it's got zippers, it's
Okay.
got Velcro. It's got, you know, weighing, you know, you got a couple rings here to hook your scale hook to.
Yep.
It's got mesh, so it allows water to freely flow through it.
Okay.
This is sold by Bottom Dwellers Tackle.
Okay.
Unfortunately, been out of stock, you know, through the pandemic and
Right.
things like that. So a lot of people have had to go to the European markets for the carp fishing and such to order these. I've had over 100 pounds of fish in these cradles over the side, and you know,
Yeah.
they do very well when you can keep them in the water like that.
Makes sense. A lot of sense.
You prefer pyramid style weights?
Yep, that way I can clip whatever weights on that I want. And again, you got a nice slider here. You got a bumper. Then I have a pseudo leader style here. I actually tie main line with 100-pound Power Pro.
Okay.
My own custom knot, double loop fisherman I call it.
Oh, is this something you share with us?
Right, and I can adjust this slider to whatever leader length I want.
Can you show me how you adjust your slider?
Well, there's a little, essentially I use a lead substitute split.
Okay.
So I can slide that up for more length,
that's
or I
a
can
great
bring it down
idea.
for less.
Yep.
Or I can eliminate it completely. But I do like to protect my knot, so I don't like to let my sinker bump down to my knot.
Right.
Or if I'm fighting a fish, I don't want that sinker kind of hitting where the fish is.
Right,
So.
hitting the fish.
And I use these Shimano Bait Runner 8000D dual drag spinning reels here.
So you're not a bait caster guy, huh?
Not at all.
That's very interesting.
I have a lot of control for the sensitivity of the free spool with these. You've got this knob here to control, you know, the I can control the spool tension
Okay.
here, and it gives me a lot of fine adjustment. Like if I pull this off here, you know, can drop that down, but you know, by doing this, it kind of restricts the spool movement.
Oh, I see. Yep.
So I can really control and dial that into whatever I need, whether it's current, etc.
Right.
And then when that fish, let's say that fish is running, right? Fish is going, I can click over. Now I'm tight to the front drag.
Okay.
Now I can wait for that fish to build tension before I set the hook and load up the line, load up the reel, etc. And of course we use 100-pound line for the environment and durability. It's really not for the fish. You could land a huge flathead on a pretty thin line if you just had open water. It might take you longer. You can really bear down with heavy line, but
Right.
whether it's structure, abrasion, etc., this is going to really tolerate a lot of abuse for a long period of time.
I'm Tony at Leroy Meats. We're going to be cooking some venison skewers marinated in a thyme, rosemary, olive oil, soy sauce, and pink peppercorn marinade. A couple clicks, make sure the tongs work. So you want your grill to be somewhere around 350 to 375 degrees. If it's getting too hot for you, you can always close the lid down. That'll kind of simmer down the coals, let them stoke a little bit. You want to go about 2 minutes aside on the skewers. The meat's going to cook a little faster than the vegetables, so you just want to make sure that you get a nice sear on each side of the meat. And then from there, if you need to move them off the heat, you can get a little bit more cook on your vegetables as well. So this is our finished product here. We've got the venison skewers with the balsamic glaze on there. We're going to take a little sample here. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Beautiful. Wow. So we've got venison tenderloin skewers here, marinated with rosemary, thyme, salt, pepper, garlic, and pink peppercorn. And then we've got them skewered up with some veggies, grilled to perfection, and then balsamic and brown sugar glaze over the top to finish her off.
What's your philosophy on daylight versus darkness as far as big flatheads?
I mean, you can catch them in the daytime or the nighttime hours, but it requires a different strategy.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
fish are going to be real tucked into structure during the daytime.
Okay.
Hunkered down. So if you can get those baits, we got guys, or I've done it myself, where we literally pull right up to wood, drop straight down. On the night shift, these fish are moving around a lot more. They're naturally nocturnal, of course. So, you know, these fish are a little more accessible at night. However, there's a lot of guys that have success in the daytime.
So I got to ask you something, Matt. Any idea how far a flathead will travel at night?
Well,
What is their range? You know,
I mean-
like I'm a big deer hunter. Like a big buck, I think has a range, especially when it comes to, you know, non-rut. I would say the range is within a couple of miles.
Sure.
During rut, it could be 10 miles, 15 miles, could even be farther.
Sure.
A flathead, non-spawning
right.
scenario.
So it's totally dependent on the time of the year. So a lot of times when we get into, like, say, late summer, these flatheads are feeding in a 1 hour window, and that's it.
That's it.
That's it. They may only move 50 yards from their preferred area.
Okay. Because the bait is plentiful.
Right. Food is plentiful. They have a preferred area. They don't need to move much. They'll come out, they'll feed, they're done. However, in the fall, when they're taking advantage of the
building their
final warm water
yes.
feeding opportunities, those fish could be moving up to half a mile a night or more.
Okay, interesting.
There's even single fish that will make 5 mile movements per night. We found this through radio telemetry and other things.
I tell you something. I just want to cry. Because when you live outdoors, when you have the opportunity to be in the presence of people that know that much about things that you love to do, I'll tell you, it's very inspirational. Man, oh man. Woo.
Long time on the water is everything.
Yeah.
Where are you tearing up?
I am, man. Tell you, that is.
Do you need a hug?
I do need a gill.
So it's getting dark out, and this has 2 little holes on here you can totally use for glow sticks. Some people will just put them like this straight up, but I kind of like to bend mine.
Why is that? Just easier.
Just so I can totally see it out there now. So yeah, I just kind of shove that in there, and then I'll cast that back out, and you can see that pretty nice out there. Like, you can totally just kind of like wait it out a little bit as it's taking the bait, and tighten your drag down, and then set the hook when you feel like you're ready. But
I feel like you don't realize
see it happen.
yeah, it'd be nice. It would be nice to get a takedown here
Let's see it happen.
pretty soon.
So we are moving to spot number 2. Spot 1 produced a bite apparently because we had a bait stolen, but no fish. So we're going to spot 2, hoping for some better results.
It's almost like the days when you had a Harley and you were waving to the guy on a bike. You see another warrior on the water, you just get a good feel.
First class, all the way from the people that ride them to the people that make them.
They do such a nice job with communication. They'll pick up the phone anytime. It's really almost a friendship.
You could be in any state, and when somebody with a warrior drives by you, you get that honk, that beep. You're truly part of a family, and there's nothing like it.
There you go.
Yep, he's hooked up.
Nice job, Adam.
Dude, good fish, Jordan.
Yeah,
Nice
he's bending
job.
Good. Yep.
Woo! This is what we were waiting for right here.
Told you.
Big old flatty.
Should I loosen drag or not?
Yeah, it's a good one. He's bending good.
You got good weight.
If you can bring him to me so I can grab him.
Okay, all Kaylee's.
Yep. Good old Kale.
Oh, there he is. That's a good fish.
That's how hard little ones fight.
Yeah, that's a good fish.
He's a good fish.
First flat of the night, folks, right there.
Good hook on him.
Nice. Good job, man.
Film it there.
Yep.
All right.
Pretty little guy.
Yeah, 26, 27 inches.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about flatheads versus channel cats. You know, a lot of people think that like the channel cats and blue cats they think there's 2 different. There's not any blue cats that I know of in our state.
No, there is not.
Right, and a lot of people think that there's certain channel cats are blue cats, that's what I'm saying. But let's see the difference between a channel cat and a flathead. Explain to everybody.
Both species are shared in the waters of the Mississippi and same habitat, but fairly distinctively different from each other. The first thing I always tell people to look for is at the caudal fin here on the tail. It's a wedge, there's not much of a fork there.
Okay.
So that's a very distinctive feature. As well as they have a little bit smaller ventral fins here. It's not the big rounded fin that channel cats have on the anal fin there. But obviously the classic flattened, compressed head.
Right.
It's not as bulbous as a channel cat's head. Obviously flatheads tend to be olives to browns to greens. Whereas channel cats tend to be slaty gray to that blue color, but they can be olives and browns as well, which is sometimes people confuse the two because they can have similar coloring, but morphology, of their bodies is slightly different.
Okay.
Whisker placements are a little bit different as well with the barbels here.
And obviously a flathead gets a lot larger than a channel
In
cat.
terms of total size.
Right.
no
So the
comparison.
thing is, I want to know is why is it that a flathead, as far as meat texture and taste, is so much better than a channel cat?
Well,
what's the difference there?
I mean, taste can be subjective depending on what
Right,
you like.
right.
But obviously, most people would sometimes think that because flatheads consume mostly live food, that sometimes the meat quality is better. But you know, generally speaking, amongst people, that's what you hear. But some
Right.
people have preferences for one or the other, and both are great. When you go to a restaurant, that's mostly channel cat.
Yeah,
A
channel
lot of
cat.
it's, you know, farm raised and
Yeah.
things these days. But before, that was, you know, wild caught fish. And
Right.
It's a very good eating fish. So, you know, the differences are slight. But sure, most guys that eat catfish a lot will probably tell you the flathead tastes better.
right. And even no.
Oh. I think we're good. We're getting more runs.
Yeah, I'd
Lines
like
are
to
out,
hear
guys.
that. Yep, things are starting to heat up, and that's usually what happens. So you get windows like this. But let's let this one go. But one thing I do want to say about this is like the flathead is kind of like looked at like most true blue flathead fishermen look at a flathead like a musky fisherman looks at it. You typically don't keep the flatheads and eat them. It's more of a sport fish.
Right. I mean, catch and release is more popular than ever. So, you know, obviously, if you want to build a trophy fishery, you got to give these chances. You know, these fish need chances to grow and breed and have the right genes to produce giants. So,
Right.
you know, big ones, you know, let those go. Take home a fish like
If
this,
you
a
were gonna
9-pound
keep
fish.
one,
Right. This is a
perfect
perfect
either.
fish.
Right.
We always say selective harvest, 15 and under.
Right. Hey.
It
Number
was- it was
two.
the final 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's always that way. Ooh.
Is it a
little bit better than the last one?
channel?
No, it's a
Yep, I can grab.
Lip 'em, Larry.
clearly hard.
That's your new name, Lip 'em, Larry.
Lip 'em, Larry. Bring him on in here, Sonny. Here we go, folks. There.
Awesome.
Flathead number 2 for the night.
Hook 'em. 6 pounds, 5 ounces, going back. Surprise fish.
when you're about another 40 pounds bigger. Nice.
So we stayed out till about 3 in the morning, and unfortunately we didn't catch any more flatheads. On the bright side, we sure did learn a lot from Matt and Christina, and we want to send them a huge thank you. Larry's just getting back from Alaska, but we still want to take the time to thank all of our military veterans, firefighters, paramedics, and no doubt, all of our police officers. We got a lot going on here at Larry Smith Outdoors, and if you want to see more of that behind the scenes stuff, make sure you follow us on social media. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.